Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to tackle a huge topic, AI in education. Look, to really use these incredibly powerful new tools, we've got to first get our heads around what they are, and just as importantly, what they're not.
All right, let's just jump right in with a number that might surprise you. 47%. That's the percentage of schools globally that are already using AI tools, according to a recent report. So yeah, this isn't some far-off futuristic thing. It is happening right now in classrooms all over the world.
And you know what follows adoption? Money. A lot of it. We're talking about global spending on AI in education that's set to blow past $25 billion pretty soon. When you see numbers like that, it tells you one thing loud and clear. For anyone in education, getting a handle on this stuff isn't optional anymore.
Okay, so how do we even begin to make sense of all this? Well, the first thing you absolutely need to know is that not all AI is created equal. In fact, pretty much everything you'll see in a classroom is built on one of two very different foundational ideas.
So let's break this down. On one side, you've got what's called symbolic AI. You can think of this as the rule follower. It's pretty straightforward. Humans code in a specific set of rules, and the AI follows them, period. The good thing is it's totally transparent. We know exactly why it does what it does, but it's also super rigid. Then on the other side, you'd have connectionist AI. This is the pattern finder. Instead of rules, you feed it a mountain of data and it learns. It finds patterns all by itself, which makes it incredibly flexible and adaptive. The catch? Sometimes it's a black box. We can't always see how it connected the dots to get to an answer.
Okay, so why should you care about this distinction? Well, it has huge consequences in the classroom. Let's take an essay grader. A rule-based one might be programmed to look for a perfect 5-paragraph essay structure. Now, what happens when a student turns in a brilliant, creative, but unconventional essay? The AI might just penalize it. It can end up stifling creativity simply because something doesn't fit into a preset box.
All right, so let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine room. How do these adaptive, pattern-finding AIs actually work? What's going on inside that black box?
It really boils down to a pretty simple 3-step workflow. First, you feed the machine a ton of data. We're talking everything from quiz scores to how long a student is logged into a platform. Then, step 2, the algorithm just churns through all that information, looking for complex patterns and relationships we might never see. And finally, based on those patterns, it makes a prediction. Something like, hey, this student might be at risk of falling behind.
But not all data is neat and tidy numbers on a spreadsheet. A lot of what happens in education is language, essays, discussions, questions. So for an AI to be really useful, it has to understand words. And that's where this other huge piece of the puzzle comes in, natural language processing, or NLP. It's the magic that lets machines read, understand, and even generate human language. Okay, so we've got our two main ingredients, an AI that can find patterns in data and an AI that can understand language. Let's put them together and see what we get. This is where we see one of the biggest applications in education right now, the personal digital tutor.
The big promise of adaptive learning is pretty incredible, right? It's the idea of a personal digital tutor for every single student. The whole goal is to create these totally personalized learning paths so that every student gets exactly what they need at the exact moment they need it.
So, picture this. Student A absolutely crushes a quiz. Instead of just sitting there bored, waiting for everyone else, the system sees that and instantly gives them a tougher challenge problem. It keeps them engaged and pushing forward.
Meanwhile, maybe student B is really struggling with one particular concept on that same quiz. The system spots exactly where they're stuck, and boom, it serves up a quick review video or some extra practice problems on just that topic. It's intervention before they even have a chance to fall behind.
It sounds perfect, right? But here's the massive catch. The system is only as smart as the data you feed it. So what happens if it only tracks, say, homework completion? It might flag a student who is a brilliant vocal participant in class, but just isn't great at written homework. The AI can't see the whole student. And that brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole conversation.
Right. Now that we've got the basics of how it works, we have to talk about the ethics of it all. We have to start asking the really hard questions. How do we use this stuff responsibly? How do we make sure it's actually helping our students and not accidentally harming them?
It really comes down to 3 core principles that any AI in education must be held to. First, fairness. Is the tool treating every student group equitably? Second, accountability. When it gets something wrong, and it will, who's responsible? And third, transparency. Can we actually look inside and understand why it made a certain recommendation? Or is it just a black box we're supposed to trust blindly?
And please, don't think this is just some academic, theoretical problem. The research is clear. Algorithmic bias is very real and it's sneaky. I love this quote here because it gets right to the heart of it. The bias is often invisible by design, meaning it can actually make existing inequalities worse without anyone even realizing it's happening. So, what does this all mean? It means there is a direct, professional responsibility here for every educator. If you're using these tools or even just thinking about it, you can't just be a passive consumer. We have to shift from just understanding the theory to taking real, concrete action.
Which of course leads to the big question. So what can you actually do? What are the practical steps you can take to make sure you're using this technology the right way? Here's a simple 3-step ethical check you can run on any tool. Step 1. Hunt for bias. Ask the hard questions. If this tool was trained on essays from US students, what does that mean for my multilingual learners? Step 2. Scrutinize the privacy. You have to know what data is being collected and where it's going. And step 3, and this is maybe the most important, demand action. Never ever blindly follow an AI's recommendation. You are the professional. Combine its insights with your own judgment and demand that vendors give you transparency and the power to override the machine.
And that really leaves us with one big final question to chew on. As these systems get smarter and more integrated into everything we do, what role are they going to play? Is AI just a tool? Is it a partner? Or, is it a replacement? How we answer that question, well, that's going to define what the classroom of the future looks like.